Hey, welcome back. It's JWalter here. I noticed that Realtor.com announced a revised housing market forecast for 2022. They actually just published this a few days ago at the time of this video. I'm going to give you my honest opinion regarding this though, because a lot of their predictions here I believe are accurate. But in my personal opinion, a lot of these are far off the mark, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion regarding this. So I hope you guys appreciate my transparency regarding this. So anyways, let's go ahead and dive right into the video. And of course, if you guys get any value out of this video, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. So here's their revised or their updated housing market forecast for the remainder of the year for 2022. This was published on June 13th. So here's their housing market forecast for 2022 for home prices, home sales, housing inventory, mortgage rates, and also single family housing starts. I have a lot of info to share regarding this, and also home ownership rate. So this column right here is their previous forecast that was published on December of last year. I made a separate video regarding that from 6 months ago. So anyways, this is the original forecast of what they were expecting for our housing market this year. However, here's a revised housing market forecast. So for home price appreciation, they were forecasting for home prices to increase by 2.9% this year, but now they have revised upward home prices to increase by 6.6% this year. So for existing home sales, which are the number of home sales for existing houses, meaning not new houses, they actually revised greatly their previous forecast. So they are actually calling for a 6.6% increase in home sales this year back in December when they published their forecast. But now they actually revised that down to 6.7%. So they basically went in the reversed order there. They were calling for an increase of 6.6. Now they're calling for a decrease of 6.7%. Also for housing inventory, they were only forecasting for a 0.3% increase of housing supply in 2022 in their previous forecast. Now they're calling for an increase of 15% compared to 2021. And by the way, I'm going to be going over in great detail each of these stats here. I'm going to give you my honest opinion regarding each of these as well. And for average mortgage rates for the year, here's what they were previously calling for. They were calling for an average of 3.3% for the remainder of the year and 3.6% by the end of the year. Obviously, they were far off the mark. I think most people were far off the mark because no one anticipated mortgage rates to be at 6% right now. In any case, the previous forecast was far off the mark, and now they're calling for an average, keyword average, for the entire year of 5% throughout the year and 5.5% by the end of the year. I'm kind of scratching my head regarding this because obviously we started the year at very low rates. We started the year at about 3.3%, and now we're at approximately 6.03% at the time of this video, which is the 17th of June. So yeah, it's possible we could average 5% for the remainder of the year, but I'm kind of scratching my head regarding 5.5% by the end of the year. Therefore, Realtor.com is forecasting for rates to decrease by December of this year. In regards to single family housing starts, again, a housing start is the beginning phase of the construction of a brand new house. So single family housing starts basically the same compared to the previous forecast in December, which I'm absolutely scratching my head regarding this as well. I'm going to be sharing some information or my personal opinion regarding this here in just a little bit. But they're calling for an increase of 5% for single family housing starts this year compared to 2021. Also for the home ownership rate, that's basically flat compared to the previous forecast. They're calling for a home ownership rate of 65.6%. And Realtor.com went on to say the following regarding their housing market forecast for 2022. The housing market settles down as home sales moderate and price growth eases. In 2022, we witnessed the early year housing frenzy give way to tough budget realities as rates hit decade-plus highs and home prices continue to surge. Yes, rates increased to approximately 6%, and this is the highest level since 2008. And this caused some home buyers to postpone home buying plans in face of higher costs. Home sales activity finished 2021 and started 2022 off better than previously expected, but cost challenges, in other words, housing affordability, have caused us to revise our outlook for home sales down lower. Again, they now expect home sales to decrease by 6.7% this year, whereas their previous forecast was calling for an increase in home sales this year. And I actually agree with them regarding this. I also expect that we're going to see home sales decrease this year because of waning home buying demand and, of course, because of housing affordability challenges that buyers are facing right now. So for a home buyer looking to buy a $400,000 house January 1st of this year compared to now, that's going to cost them an extra $550 more per month just because mortgage rates have increased so much this year. And therefore, because of this, I believe we're going to be seeing fewer home sales this year compared to last year when mortgage rates average 3%. They also expect home purchases by investors to slip or decrease by a relatively small amount, while home buyer purchases for both primary and secondary homes decline by a larger amount. Okay, let's talk about housing construction numbers because this is really where Realtor.com and I absolutely disagree regarding this. So I hope you guys appreciate my transparency. This is just my personal opinion though, right? So it says home builders ramp up to tackle housing undersupply. Obviously, one would assume that because we have a lack of houses for sale, even though it's starting to increase, one would assume that builders are going to be ramping up construction in order to meet that demand, right? However, that's not what we're seeing though. So here's what they had to say here. Construction remains very much needed in a housing market that still is undersupplied. And it says here, much like overall sales activity, single-family housing starts finished slightly stronger than expected in 2021. In regards to this, this is actually true. So in 2021, we did end the year in November and December with more housing starts for single-family houses compared to prior months. As you can see here, this is for 2021. And by the way, this is straight from the US Census Bureau's website here. So here's 2021. Here's units started. Another word for that is housing starts. And these are, by the way, are in thousands of units, and these are seasonally adjusted numbers. So as you can see right here, the number of single family housing starts absolutely ramped up in November and December of last year. So yes, we did end the year slightly stronger compared to the summer months of 2021, for example. However, here's where I disagree with Realtor.com regarding housing starts. So they say here, we are poised to build on that momentum in 2022 regarding housing starts for single-family houses. So they are basically forecasting for housing starts of single-family houses to be more this year compared to 2021, which in my mind is absolutely insane because look at this. Here's Freddie Mac. Here's average rates in 2021 for mortgage rates. So the average mortgage rate in 2021 for the entire year was 2.96%. We started this year at 3.3% and have been going up greatly ever since then. So as of the end of May, the average rate this year so far is 4.32%, so far higher than the average of 2021. However, though, look at this. May's rate was 5.23%. However, at the time of this video, average rates are 6%. So this average for 2022 is going to be far higher than 2021. So I'm kind of scratching my head regarding this because why would we have more single-family housing starts this year compared to last year when the average rate in 2021 was just under 3% and now it's going to be over 4%. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to me at all why builders would ramp up single-family housing starts given the fact that mortgage rates have been increasing greatly. I mean, look at buyers of single-family houses. Those are home buyers. And the vast majority of home buyers looking to buy a single-family house are going to be using a mortgage. So they are really tied to mortgage rates than anything else. And that's one reason why I believe that housing starts for the remainder of this year are going to be on a declining trend. On top of this, have a look at this. So Realtor.com is calling for, again, 1.2 million single-family housing starts. So by dumb math, that's 100,000 single-family housing starts per month, right? Have a look at this, though. Here's the latest we have from the US Census Bureau. This is for as of May, end of May. So as of the end of May, total single-family, look at this again, single-family housing starts, 1 unit. Year to date for 2022, we have 467,800 single-family housing starts in the US through the end of May. Therefore, that's 93,560 single-family housing starts per month thus far this year. That's basically January through May of this year, which gets you the 567,800 starts, right? So if we want to have 1.2 million housing starts, we need this number to be averaging at 100,000 per month. So in other words, Realtor.com is calling for more than 100,000 housing starts for single-family houses for the remainder of the year, which in my personal opinion is kind of mind-blowing why builders are going to be ramping up housing construction for single-family houses, given the fact that mortgage rates are at 6% right now. On top of that, look at this. In May of this year, we saw the third consecutive declines of single-family housing starts in the United States based on a seasonally adjusted annual rate. As you can see here, ever since March of this year, that rate has been decreasing. And May's seasonally adjusted annual rate is only 1.05 million housing starts. In other words, based on the current pace for May, we would only have 1.05 million housing starts for single-family houses. So in other words, Realtor.com is calling for builders to ramp up production of housing starts for single-family houses, which in my personal opinion, this number is going to continue to decrease through the remainder of the year, given the fact that mortgage rates have been increasing greatly. In any case, they predicted the following here. We expect single-family housing starts to hit a new 16-year high in 2022, but rising costs and labor shortages will present challenges for builders to work around on top of waning optimism and top-line pressures as housing demand softens. But what about rising mortgage rates? In my personal opinion, if these rates of 6% sustain for the remainder of the year, we're going to see a big decrease in home buying demand for existing houses, but especially for new houses as well. Also, on top of that, as I mentioned in my video from the other day, home builder confidence has decreased for 6 consecutive months. So builder confidence right now is at its lowest levels since June of 2020. And according to the National Association of Home Builders, builders are adopting a more cautious stance as demand softens with higher mortgage rates. In any case, my personal opinion is that Realtor.com is very optimistic and is overstating housing starts for single-family houses because I really don't anticipate that happening. I would imagine we're going to see less housing starts this year compared to 2021. In any case, leave me a comment below with what you guys think is going to happen regarding housing starts this year. So let's talk about housing supply or housing inventory. So they are saying that the number of houses for sale is expected to continue to grow as more homeowners take advantage of favorable market conditions. In other words, it's a strong seller's market on average across the United States. And therefore, a lot of them are going to be taking advantage of this and gaining the equity out of their houses. And it says here, this may even lead to a reinforcing cycle as more options bring out other seller and buyers. In other words, people looking to sell their houses and to buy an additional house. And that's one reason why we're seeing a lack of supply right now is because home sellers are looking at options of what's for sale. They're not seeing any options, therefore they're not listing their houses for sale. However, according to Realtor, they're saying that we're going to be seeing more housing supply, and that could cause more seller buyers to get their houses listed for sale and become home buyers as well. However, in my personal opinion, we're not going to see a big increase from seller buyers unless someone's looking to downsize and buy a more affordable house. In my personal opinion, I think a lot of people are locked in with rates of less than 3%. And so why would they become buyers when rates are at 6% right now? Unless, again, if someone's moving to a more affordable area, they're looking at downsize, then yes, of course, it could make sense. But I really think we're not going to see this giant increase of new listings from seller buyers because of rising mortgage rates and, of course, of rising home prices. So here's active listing count, in other words, housing supply or housing inventory, according to Realtor.com. So this yellowish line here is for 2022 as of May. Right now, according to Realtor.com, we have 516,000 houses for sale, and that has actually surpassed 2021 in green line right here. We basically started the year at a deficit, but now as of May, we're over 2021 levels by 8%. So in other words, we have more supply by 8% compared to 2021. However, look at the differences compared to 2017 through 2019. Again, 516,000. But look at 2017 and 19. Here's 2017, 19, and then here's 2018. So in May of these years, we had approximately 1.2 million to 1.3 million houses for sale. So basically we have less than half the amount of inventory now compared to these years. However, even though I don't foresee a giant increase of new listings this year, I do foresee housing supply to increase because of waning home buying demand. So if buyer demand decreases, homes are going to be taking longer to sell, and that will cause housing supply to increase this year. And it goes on to say the following in their housing market predictions here. Home sellers face more competition. Of course, that makes sense if housing supply increases, but seller buyers get more options. In other words, homeowners looking to sell and then buy a new house. So it says here, homeowners continue to be in an advantageous position. Another word for that is it's a strong seller's market. So according to the latest data from the National Association of Realtors, we have 2.2 months of housing supply in the US. And according to Redfin, we have actually just over that as well. So here's housing supply according to Redfin. So for the 4 weeks ending June 12th of this year, we have a week supply of 8.1 months. In other words, just over a 2-month supply of houses across the United States. That's actually more compared to this time in 2021, which is obviously a positive sign. However, 8.1 weeks of housing supply is far less than 2019 at this time of the year. So in 2019, we had just under 14 weeks of housing supply. Now we only have 8.1 weeks. So in other words, if we want to have a more normal housing market like we did in 2019, we have a long ways to go. And here's their conclusion regarding their housing market forecast for 2022. It says, I expect the market will cool off notably as we move towards the end of the year. I also anticipate that as well. I believe we're going to see a noticeable slowdown in our housing market, especially over the last half of the year. Also, on a seasonality basis, it's more normal for a housing market to slow down basically for the last half of the year. But given that home prices have increased so much, and of course, mortgage rates have been skyrocketing, I think it's going to be very noticeable towards the end of this year. Time will tell though, right? And therefore, because of this notable slowdown, this means that homeowners contemplating a sale should consider acting sooner rather than later. I also believe this as well because we still have a strong seller's market on average across the United States. Again, every housing market's different, but if we do see a strong slowdown in the last half of this year, then some sellers looking to sell right now should get their houses listed for sale much sooner than anticipated, in my opinion. Another key takeaway in a transitioning market is that potential sellers need to be plugged into the latest market information and not let their expectations be too swayed by the past. In other words, we're seeing a lot of price reductions right now because we're seeing a lot of overzealous home sellers. They're reading about their neighbor who sold their house, 5 months ago. They received 20 offers and they sold their house in one day, and they sold their house for $100,000 more than asking price. That is not what their housing market is right now. Also, if you want to be really tuned in to what's happening right now with our housing market, you need to have a look at active listings. Are active listings or houses listed for sale, are they sitting in the market longer than they were before? Are they getting more price reductions? What's happening with those? That's really a key indicator, not to look at sold houses. And with that said, Realtor.com says the share of sellers having to reduce their asking prices to find a home buyer remains lower than pre-pandemic levels. However, it rose from 1 year ago, both in March, April, and in May. So what's your biggest takeaways from today's video? Also, if you guys got any value out of today's video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. Greatly appreciate that. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Look forward to seeing you on the next video.